friends, welcome back to my channel. My name's Em, and today is the start of another reading vlog and another week of Clear Your Shit. This is week 8, I believe. I don't know, I started to lose track a little bit. But I am already in the middle of another book. If you saw week 7's vlog, then you know. If this is your first one, hi, hello, how are you? I am currently reading Chaos Vector by Megan E. O'Keefe, and I am reading this to fulfill the fire elements prompt. Yeah, fire element, which is to read a book with a red cover. And this is book 2 in the Protectorate series. I read book 1, Velocity Weapon, back in May, and then I had started this in June, and then soft DNF'd it because I mean, no real important reason. I just got distracted, and no, it's no deeper reason than that. But now I am continuing on, and I think this is a really fun sci-fi series. I can't go too much into detail because it is book 2 in a trilogy, but we are following two siblings, basically. Sanda is a pilot or sergeant with the military, and Byron, her brother, is what is called a keeper, and I think it's basically like a high-powered politician for this world. And at the beginning of Velocity Weapon, Sanda wakes up on a ship, and her leg has been amputated due to injury, and she last thing she remembers is being in her ship during a battle between her planet and this other planet, and it is 230 years past what she remembers. You're getting her perspective on the ship, dealing with becoming or being disabled, and I really like the rep and how Sanda has a wide variety of mobility aids that she uses just depending on the situation and the circumstance that she's in. I don't love Byron's POV as much. I find his to be boring at times. And then we also have a bunch of other perspectives as we move throughout the series, or throughout the 2 books that I've read so far. And it's not always the same people. And so I'm on to this one. So it's following the events of Velocity Weapon, and there's so much going on. And I was talking to a friend about this series this morning, and I compared it to popcorn because I'm not really emotionally invested in what is going on. I'm not super attached to the characters. It's a little bit like watching like an MCU movie where I'm not super invested, but I'm having a really good time. And that's how I feel about this series. I'm not super invested, but it's a fun time, which I like. I don't need every single book I read to be, an emotional experience. And the chapters are really short. It reads really fast. I just started this on Friday, and I'm already, oh, and it's currently Monday, by the way. Happy Monday. And I'm already, I think, 60% of the way through. Ooh, I'm already 76% of the way through. Even better. So I can conceivably finish this tonight. If not tonight, definitely by tomorrow morning. So that's your little update for the start of this vlog, and I will update when I finish Chaos Vector and when I'm ready to start my next book for the next prompt. Also, I'm only reading like 1 book at a time right now, and I don't know what's happening to me. It's so weird. Yeah, just kidding. It's week 7. It's week 7. Just dawned on me how messy my house is and that I need to do something about it. But first, not organized in the slightest. I finished Chaos Vector like 5 seconds ago. And I think this is a solid 4 stars, maybe a 3.75. It's fun, it's fast paced, it's adventurous, I have a good time. I am still wholly not really interested in Buren's point of view, but I don't know, she dropped a thing at the very end where like maybe I will be more interested in it in the second book. Maybe he'll be more active. The problem is like because Buren, I think earlier I said he was a keeper. He's not. He's a speaker, which is, you know, like the press representative for the keepers, basically. So he does all the announcements, all the publicity, all the, you know, that kind of stuff. His point of view, oh my gosh, I'm too short for this placement to work. Anyways, I'm just going to stand on my tippy toes. We'll see how that goes. So his point of view is always a little bit more political. It's a little bit slower. It's not all the action that Sanda gets, which is fine. I just find it not as interesting as like the journey Sanda is on. There were a couple interludes, I think actually only 2, in here that were providing context, but because there were only 2 of them and they were so far spaced out, they didn't really make, like, I feel like there should have either been more of those interludes for that storyline, or Megan O'Keefe should have just like cut them and we should have gotten that information a different way, because only, I don't know, it just didn't make sense to have as few as we had. There's one storyline that was like totally unresolved, which makes sense. Like we're obviously going to go into the conclusion. There's a lot of like loose ends. I don't know what this is. That's all the loose ends that are swinging around. So I hope this has a fun ending. I really do, because I've had a good time with Velocity Weapon, and then with Chaos Vector, I think I do prefer Velocity Weapon overall, because that one was just so fun. And this one was fun too, but just not quite as fun as Velocity Weapon was. So that is done, and let's talk about the next prompt. So the next prompt is collective fire signs. Read a book that was a hot topic at any time. And initially I had I had mentally earmarked The Jasmine Throne. However, she is thick. And I am not ready to jump into another 500-page book. Yeah, these are both. So I'm not ready. I just finished a 500-page book. I don't want to jump right into another one. So I'm going to not do this one. So I'm going to have to pick. Here, let's move over. So I'm going to have to pick something else. Something that is a little bit thinner, so I have some forward momentum. However, because I am not like a reading the popular books type of reader, which is never more apparent to me than during the Goodreads Choice Awards when I'm looking at that list and realize I've read nothing that other people are reading. Ideally, I would like to read a book for my self-destructing TBR. The only one that I can think that might fit is Foundry Side, and this is really only popular in, gosh, it's almost 500 pages as well. I think this is only really a hot topic, or, you know, popular in like the corner of Instagram that I'm on, because I have a couple friends on there who really love this series. And I remember when book 3 in this series came out last year or the year before, people were pumped. I could do this. The other one I could do is The Faithless, but I know there's a prompt coming up for reading a book with a mom in it, and I know Terrain's mom is a character in this series, so I kind of want to save this for that one, for that prompt. And like the other one that I knew was really popular is Strange and Stubborn Endurance, but again, this is like a 500-page, it's 500, over 500 pages, and I don't want to do that to myself. I want to pick something a little bit more compact. I don't have any novellas that I haven't read yet, I don't think. I wish I hoarded my novellas a little bit more. Just blaze through them. So if I'm not going to read Jasmine Throne for this one, I think I might just do Foundry Side, even though it doesn't perfectly match up with the prompt, but that's okay. I mean, I have permission to kind of do whatever I want to do with the prompts, because, you know, nobody cares. It's just, you know, it's a reading challenge. As long as I'm reading stuff off of my unread shelf, I don't think anyone cares. So yeah, okay. I'm going to say I'm going to read this one, even though it's still long. And I might look into the audiobook. We'll see. I'm currently listening to this one, The Flower Bride. And I had tried to read this earlier in the year and then soft DNF'd it because I wasn't super invested. And I have made it to the point I was at when I DNF'd it. And I'm kind of feeling the same feelings. I like it while I'm listening to it, but I feel no compunction to pick it up at all. So I haven't listened to it in 3 days because I'm just not interested. So I think that I need to clean my lens. So I'm contemplating if I just take that as a sign that I just permanently DNF'd it. I haven't tried Roshani Chokshi's YA. I've only read her middle grade. And I love the Aru Shah series. That's one of my favorite series. But it may be that she's just an author that works better for me in middle grade. And I know this is her first adult, or a book that's marketed to adults. Yeah, I just don't know. It's also, you know, it's gothic, and we know how I've been feeling about gothic things lately. It's not great. It's not great. I mean, gothic for me is not great. Roshani Chokshi's writing is great, but I just don't know that I care about gothic things ever. I'm a little overwhelmed by all these choices. There's just too many books in the world. What I would really want to try is, I got Once Upon a Broken Heart from the library, but it's not my unread shelf. It's a library book, and I'm not sure if I'm going to like this or not. My spidey senses are telling me no, but who knows? I could love it. It could be great. I don't know. Anyways, I don't need to make you suffer along with the indecision, and also this clip is now getting real long, so I'm going to stop talking and figure out what I want to do with my life, and I will update you once I have accomplished all of that. Hi friends, I'm just cleaning up my yoga mat. I did some stretching this afternoon, and I just finished wrapping Christmas presents, which I'm glad I did because I have less for one child than I do for the others. So I hope I'm not the only parent that, like, it's not intentional. It just, okay, anyways. I 100% overthought what to read next last night. And I ended up putting out 3 possibilities and had my middle kid pick for me. And they picked Foundry Side, which it was a hot topic around my internet friends. So we're just going to make it work, even if it's not entirely accurate. I read 2 chapters of it last night, and it's about Sansia, I think that's how you say her name, who is a thief. And in the first 2 chapters, she's sneaking in to this warehouse, the docks, I think. And the magic system in this book relies on scribes. And she can, like, feel like what the walls are made of, or like an influence, like the stones and like, so like surfaces, I guess. The heist does not go according to plan. And I didn't get that. Could you? Not you. And she like accidentally sets the warehouse on fire. So that's in the first 2 chapters. I did like it so far. It's kind of funny. I liked Sansia's character a little bit. I've been introduced. But I definitely like overthought which book to read next, and I'm worried I'm getting a little burned out on fantasy because I feel like I've just read fantasy after fantasy after fantasy, which is great, but I feel like I need to mix it up a little bit. I did decide I'm just gonna officially DNF The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chokshi. I'm sure it's great. It's just not. I'm just not a gothic girly, and that's okay. But that is not what I've read today. I really impulsively got Letters to Half Moon Street by Sarah Wallace because it was on Kobo Plus, and I had a couple of friends on Instagram who just all of a sudden started shouting about this book, and I hadn't read a romance for a while and felt like I was kind of ready, and it's a queer romance. Okay, but here's what it is. It is a historical romance in England, like think Victorian style, but there's magic in this Victorian England, and the magic is really cool. I really like how they discuss spells and they use them. This is also a really queer magical historical London where there's a non-binary duke. It's just very queer norm. Like, nobody bats an eye if somebody's bi or gay. Like, the marriage mart, it's like the parents don't care if you marry a boy or a girl or a non-binary person. They just, it's still the same. Like, you want to marry somebody who will be able to financially take care of you, whether you're a daughter or like a second born son who isn't going to inherit. Anyways, so very queer norm. And then it's epistolary. And it starts off between a brother and a sister, and the brother, Gavin, has been sent to London by his parents to be the steward for their townhouse. But also to get him out of the house because his oldest brother and his wife are moving back in with the parents until she has her baby, and the oldest brother is a big old dirtbag. Not dirtbag, but just he's a nuisance. He's not a fun person. And then the oldest, or the only daughter, Geraldine, Jerry, she is sent to, I think, stay with her uncle and her aunt while the older brother is there. And then the youngest brother is at university. And so it's mostly letters between Gavin and Jerry as Gavin is settling into London life. But then Gavin meets someone, and then you start getting letters between Gavin and Charles. And then there's letters from the older brother, the younger brother, the parents. So you just get all these letters, and I just love it so much. I sat and read it for an hour and a half this morning without getting distracted, without looking at my phone, without thinking of anything else I needed to do. I just sat and read the book, and I haven't done that. I had to force myself to put it down, and I haven't had to do that in a long time. A really long time. I love it so much. I haven't bought myself a physical copy yet because I'm like 56% of the way through. I don't know where my book is, or 60% of the way through. So it could go south. It could go south, but I'm loving it so much. So much. The lighting is terrible. No apologies. I finished Letters to Half Moon Street. 5 stars. Going on the favorite books of the year list. It's so... It was so good. I loved it so much. I've downloaded the next book in the series, so thoughts and prayers to my December TBR. Good morning, everyone. I have calmed down from last night. Ooh, that was a big post-book high and then slump and then hangover. I was all over the place last night, but I just cannot express how excited I am to have to read a book that I loved, that I was obsessed with, that I couldn't put down that I thought about while I wasn't reading it. It was just, it was so lovely. And it's such a cozy, warm, lovely book. Like, if you're reading cozy fantasy, this is very, very light on the fantasy. It's basically a historical romance with just a teeny tiny bit of magic thrown in. But, I mean, if you are looking for cozy books, I don't know what else you could want. Anyways, finishing Letter Staff Moon Street last night. Don't worry, I ordered a finished copy from my local indie yesterday. So, it should be here by the end of the month. It's indie, those are usually print on demand, so they take a little bit longer to get from my indie bookstore. They usually take about 2 weeks. And yes, I could order it off of Amazon and have it tomorrow, and it'll be here by the end of the year, which is all that matters. And then I'll probably reread it because I really wanted to reread it last night. But because that threw me into such a tizzy, I scrapped everything. All the reading plans were just gone. And I set aside Foundry Side because I was telling my husband I did read those 2 chapters the other night, but there's a thing. Oh, to be continued. Okay, this angle isn't great, but it's fine. So, what was I saying? Oh, I did get the next book in. It's called the Mend and Metal series, the Sarah Swalls book. Next book is called One Good Turn, and this one is not epistolary, so we'll see. And it's about a character who is, so same world, but like new characters, basically. So I started that one. It's already it's a little bit heavier, but I'm going to trust Sarah Walsh that it'll be fine. And then, I remember what I was saying about Foundry Side. So sometimes when I read fantasy, not so much with sci-fi, sometimes when I read fantasy, I can be liking the writing and the world building and the characters and everything, but the writing will not stick in my brain the way I want it to, and I'll end up having to do a lot of rereading to get what is happening to stick in my brain instead of just like going, and that happened a little bit with Foundry Side. I didn't retain a lot of the information of what happened in the first 2 chapters. And so I kind of knew I was going to have to reread a little bit before I kept going. But I decided, since I did kind of have like a palate cleanser book, I decided to set Foundry Side aside for now. And I started Jasmine Throne. And I'm happy to say that I am absolutely loving it so far. I'm only 74 pages in, but I love the writing. It's sticking in my brain perfectly. I'm not having to reread. I'll do a proper plot synopsis once I'm a little bit farther in, but I'm just delighted with how much I'm enjoying the writing so far. So that's my little reading update for today. Hopefully, my cheeks are really pink. Hopefully I'll have a more in-depth update tomorrow. Today is just my busier work day. And I'm really tired for some reason. And I still have one more class to teach today, so I'm gonna just relax and I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Oh my gosh, friends. Hi. Happy Friday. I'm in the drive-thru line for Starbucks because apparently one of my students very sweetly gave me a gift card. So, it's very much needed today. It's been a real rough, month. Yeah. Oh, I'm just crooked. I don't like that. Okay. But, it's my day off. I just worked out at the gym, trying to close that stress cycle. And I saw this reel on Instagram, and I don't remember who saw it because I just swiped past it. But it was for gamifying your to-do list. And so the person that made the reel writes out 20 chores and like small chores. So it's not clean the bathroom is not like a list. It'll be like clean the sink, clean the toilet. Like you itemize out everything and you mix in some fun things that you want to do to relax, and then you roll a 20-sided dice and do whatever like pops up. So just doesn't want to stay straight today. So I am going to do that for my chore list today. I wrote it out last night, so it's all ready to go. What's the plan? Is it time to get my hair cut? I think it might be time. Years and years and years ago, I had, well, at one point I had like a bob, and then it was like, you know, it did that like thing in the back where it was shorter, higher, like stacked, I think is what it's called. Anyways, and then another time I had a bob and I had bangs, and I don't know, both of those sound real nice, but I have finally learned how, well, not learned, kind of. So I kind of know how to handle my hair now, so I'm a little nervous to revert back to being short, because then I have to learn how to take care of it all over again. That's not what we're here for. I got my coffee. I had to stop by the store and get laundry detergent, always and forever. And now I'm home, and I did write down my workout on my list, and I did it without rolling, but so I'm just gonna highlight it because I did it. Should we do a proper book update before we dive into the chores? Because I feel like I've been teasing that I'll give you a proper update, and then I don't do it. So I am, how far? 17% through One Good Turn. And I'm not loving it the way I loved Letters to Half Moon Street, but it mostly, I still like the writing. I'm enjoying our main character. I'm not sure where this romance is going to come in. I don't think we've met the love interest yet. We did have a cameo from one of the heroes from the first book. Charles, the love interest from the first book, had like a brief little cameo. And we're following our main character. Oh gosh, what's her name? That's not good. Oh, Nell. And Nell is an orphan, and she was raised, it's kind of like an Artful Dodger situation, where it's this guy named Jack who takes in like orphans, and then they steal for him from the wealthy, and then he, as they grow up, he filters them into one of his other businesses. Like he owns some taverns and they can work there. He owns a brothel, and sometimes he'll send them to work there. And Nell has successfully gotten out from under like his management and is struggling to get by. And she wants to learn magic, but is having to teach herself. And she ends up interfering with a robbery or a pickpocketing, one of Jack's henchmen, and Jack basically forces her to work for him again to pay off her debt of like the money he would have made from what the thief could have pickpocketed from this wealthy character. Anyways, and Nell does it to avoid trouble and drama, but also her best friend Pip is still involved in is still under Jack's influence, and she really misses Pip and wants to be in his life again. And the reason I'm not loving it is that Pip and Jack are in a relationship together, and it screams groomer. And because Jack's known both Pip and Nell since they were small children, and he was not a small child, he was a grown person, and so it's just creepy. I'm really leaning into trusting Sarah Wallace that it'll be okay and that Pip will not be in that relationship. And I'm pretty sure Pip is the main character in another book, so I'm trusting that it'll be okay and that it will still be cozy, even if in the moment it doesn't feel cozy, because I am really anxious about the dynamic between Pip and Jack. But I'm only 3 chapters in. I'm just eager to get to Nell's romance and have it be cozy and sweet, because I just loved Letters to Half Moon Street so much. And then I'm also, the reason I haven't made much progress on One Good Turn is because I am obsessed with the Jasmine Throne. I'm 142 pages in. I wrote down like 2 reading chores on my list so that I could make this a priority, because I am really digging it and I just want a good chunk of uninterrupted reading time. But this is about we have 2 main characters. We have Malini, and I think that's how you say her name, and Priya. And we have a bunch of other POVs, but those are our 2 main characters. And Malini is a princess for this land, this kingdom. The book opens with her brother, the emperor. There's a tradition in their kingdom of, to prove the right of the emperor, Malini basically has to voluntarily be burned at the stake to prove her purity and to prove the kingdom's right and dominance, because this is definitely like a not colonizer, but oppressive regime situation. And Malini refuses to do it. And so she is banished to like isolation in this tower. And then Priya is a maidservant for the regent of this particular city, town. I don't even know what the word would be, but so we're following both of them mainly. And I love the writing style. This is my first book that I've read by Tasha Suri. I love how she writes. I really like Priya. I'm wanting more from Malini's point of view, but I understand, like, it makes sense why we haven't gotten a whole lot from her yet, just because of all the stuff that's going on with her. I don't know how much of a romance there will actually be in this. I'm fairly positive there is, because it's part of the Sapphic trifecta, and I think all 3 of those books, I mean, I know 2 of those books have romance. Well, one has kind of a romance, and one has complicated romance. I've heard this one has morally gray characters, but I don't see that yet, so maybe I'm just misremembering. But I mean, I'm loving it. I love the writing style. I love the characters. I love the world. It's just, I'm so glad I got over my issues and I picked it up. So that's kind of the plan for today. It's just reading and chores. I need to go pick up, some Christmas presents that I ordered that have now come in. I wish the kids were at school longer today. Oh, I just wanna hermit away for like 48 hours and not talk to anybody at all, but that's not realistic. So I'm just gonna make the most of the alone time I do have. And what else was I gonna say? Oh, it's mostly just me and my youngest today, because the twins have a dance this evening at their school, and one of them isn't even coming home. She's going over to her and her whole friend group are going over to another friend's house after school, and they're going to get ready for the dance together. And they all made each other Christmas presents, and they're going to exchange presents with each other. And oh god, it almost makes me miss being a kid. Not quite, but almost. Okay, let's roll and see what chore I have to do first. Okay, you're not going to be able to see the dice, but that's okay. You just have to trust me. All right, I got 13, and number 13 is sweep the dining room. Okay, I just got read for 30 minutes. Yay. And okay. I went out of order. I did run to my bookstore in my library without rolling for it, because I just wanted to go and get it done once 10 o'clock hit and they were both open. And most of what I picked up at the bookstore was for Christmas presents for my family, and a good chunk of my family is very supportive and watches my videos, so I won't be showing you what I got them. And then I am going to be doing a graphic novel project in January, and so a bunch of the graphic novels that I had placed holds on were in. So I actually think I can film the intro for that video today. If not today, this weekend. But what I did get at the bookstore that I will show you is my copy of Heartstopper Volume 5 came in. And so even though I really want to read Jasmine Throne, I am going to read this because once my middle kid gets home, this is no longer my book. This becomes their book. So I need to read it before they get home. So I'm going to put on a cute little ambiance room on YouTube and read for 30 minutes. And I'm excited, but my heart is nervous. I went over my 30-minute timer. I think I read for 45 minutes, but I read all of Heartstopper 5. I cried. Oh my gosh. Alice Oseman, I don't know how they do it. I don't know. It was beautiful and sweet and perfect. It's just perfect. I don't know how it's possible, but it's perfect. I loved it. The part I want to talk about might be a spoiler though, so I don't know. But there is a conversation about Ace in here, and it's a really short, like only a couple pages. But I cried. I love it. I'm going to be a mess when the final volume comes out. Like an absolute actual mess. I teared up on the last page where it says Heartstopper will conclude in volume 6, and I cried. Just thinking about it being done, I started to cry. So, anyways, that was great. That serotonin boost. I haven't found anything that gives me the serotonin quite like Heartstopper does. Oh, it's just so good. Okay. How am I supposed to live my life now? Okay. Friends, I haven't given you an update for a couple of days, and I'm not done with Jasmine Throne yet, but that is all I'm reading. I'm totally ignoring everything else because it's so good and I love it so much, and it's definitely, I can't imagine how it's not a favorite book of the year, but we'll see. I wrote out like some of my favorite books from the year, and it's a very long list, so I definitely need to whittle it down a bit. So I'm not talking about 30 books, but it's okay. That's future Emily's problem. But Jasmine Throne is just so good. I had a friend ask if I love it more than I love The Unbroken by C.L. Clark, which I read at this time last year. And I don't know. I really love it. I love the writing. I love, especially now that I'm like in the 80% range of being done. And I just love Malini and Priya, and I love the way Tasha Suri writes, and I like that these are two characters who are really thoughtful and methodical in their decisions. Like, that was the thing I complained about in The Unbroken, is that Terrain just cannot make a well thought out decision to save her life, and Luca is really problematic to like because she wants to uphold the colonization that her people have engaged in. But like in this one, Malini recognizes the harm that her empire has caused and is like willing to help Priya fight to save her, to like free her people, and that like Malini's empire can be successful and Priya's kingdom can be freed. Like, both things can happen and be true and be good for both of them. And so I love it so much. It's so good. It's so good. So that's kind of my only reading update, because I've just been reading this. I've read maybe a chapter of One Good Turn, which is still stressing me out a little bit. I don't love it as much as I loved Letters to Half Moon Street, but that's okay. I'm still finishing it. It definitely had to take a back seat. And then I have had a hold placed on, gosh, I can't remember the exact title of the book, but I'll put the cover here. I've had a hold on it forever at my library, but obviously like everybody has a hold on this book right now. And then the ebook finally went on sale. So if you're seeing this, like relatively close to when this goes up, it might be worth checking to see, because a friend of mine shared that it was $1.99 on Kindle, and then I went and I checked Kobo's website and it was $1.99 there. So I think it's $1.99 across all ebook platforms. So if you've also been wanting to pick up that book, I mean, it's hard to beat $1.99. I read the intro for that this morning, but then like Jasmine Throne just took over my life, and I found a playlist on Spotify that somebody had made to listen to while you're reading the Jasmine Throne, and it is perfect. Perfect. I was listening to that while there was like this fight scene going on, and my heart was pumping so fast. The music in that playlist is just perfect. I will try to remember to link to it on Spotify down below if you want to check it out, because like even if you're not reading the Jasmine Throne, it's still a great playlist. But okay, that is my update. I've been reading at one of my favorite coffee shops, and I have to go home now and like spend time with my children and my husband. And yeah, I typically end these vlogs on Sunday, which is today, but I think I'm going to extend it a little bit just until I finish the Jasmine Throne, because I feel like that'll be a much more like satisfactory ending to this vlog. Update once I finished, and then we'll close out the vlog. Miracle of Miracles. I finished the Jasmine Throne. Literally finished it maybe 3 minutes ago, and I loved it. There was a twist that I totally saw coming, but it's okay because it's exactly what I wanted to happen, so I'm really happy about it. And it's just, I just loved it so much. It was so good. And I liked that it did, like, it's kind of a cliffhanger ending because the main plot is still unresolved, but I like that Tasha Suri got everyone situated where they needed to be, and then it ended. So it felt like there was a little bit of resolution to like what everybody was striving towards in this one. There's not really any resolution because like like I said, the big conflict has not been resolved, but there's been a little closure to their personal conflicts, if that makes sense. Like, not totally, but enough that it felt like an okay ending. Like, I'm not dying that I don't have book 2 right now, which is my favorite kind of ending for a book that's part of a series. I don't like it when it's a painful cliffhanger. This is really my preferred ending. So with that, we're going to wrap up the vlog because it is Sunday night, and that's when I like to end these. Let's do a little recap for how this week went, because I felt like it's a fantastic reading week. Truly, I cannot believe I am having this good of a reading week this late in the year, like to find 2 books that are going to be on my favorites of the year list. It's fantastic. And I just wish the whole year had been like this last week had been. That's okay. So what did I read this week? What did I read? God, did I finish Chaos Vector this week? Was that? I guess it was this week. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I finished Chaos Vector, which I ended up giving a 3.75. Because like I said earlier, I do really enjoy that series. I think it's really fun and compulsively readable, but there's not a lot of weight to it. Like, while I really enjoy my time with this series, I don't know that I'm going to really hang on to any details for Velocity Weapon or Chaos Vector. Like 2 years from now, I don't know that I'll really remember anything about the books. Other than that, I read them, but I have a good time with them. And then I read Letters to Half Moon Street by Sarah Wallace. I gave it 5 stars. Loved it so much. I cannot wait for my copy to get here, and I might just reread it right away. I also read Heartstopper Volume 5, which is another 5-star. And then Jasmine Throne, I think I'm going to give it 5 stars. I'm oscillating in between. Like, it could be a 4.5, it could be a 4.75, it could be a 5-star. I'm leaning towards a 5-star just because I feel like most of this year my reading experiences have been that I am painfully aware that I am reading a book while I've been reading a book, you know? Is that feeling where there's some books where you're just very aware that you're reading a book. And I did not feel like I was reading a book even once. It was so delightful. It's excellent. I flew through this really chunky book, and if you saw, no, but was that this vlog? Yeah, and earlier in this vlog, I was not wanting to start this because I thought reading another 500 plus page book was going to be too much of a slog, and it was in fact not a slog at all. So I think that means it should be a 5. It feels like a 5. I don't know why I'm fighting it. I'm just gonna give it a 5, which means I had 3. Can I math? 3 5-star reads this week. I know. I don't know how I'm gonna pick my favorite books of the year now, and I'm really excited about the TBR I have for next week. So stay tuned for that vlog, and it's like the best Christmas present I could have had. Okay, if you have made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching and spending your precious time with me. And if you would like to leave a comment but you don't know what to say, let's do a tree emoji or vine or flower, something naturey and plant-based for Jasmine Throne. And I will talk to you all in the next one. Bye!